In Pittsburgh, the word in the street is that I lost to Vincent Irini. I think it's an assumed name. I think Irini has something to do with the ethics of cinema. And it's a Catholic snapping turtle that Martin Sheen uploaded to help Clint Eastwood's Manson snuff film syndicate for Yoko Ono and Hitler Reagan. Now, many people believe that if something can't be done by them, that it's impossible. I, for example, wouldn't have understood the deliberate enculturation of sarcasm by Zappa, who I met when I was about 13 years old, I guess. But by overloading a child's mind with deranged pervert acts in a hostage Manson ordeal, while sneering at them, you develop a proclivity for sarcastic retort if there's any courage left in the zombie you create. So they had a natural language systems analyst named Jaime Carbonell and an attorney named Miles Kirshner, who was interested in anthropology games. He invented a game called Cosmic Wimpout, a version of Cosmic Wimpout. They had things like if the dice landed on top of each other, he called it a Walenda. He's make a mistake and you're back to Brooklyn. And something where you hop around the room when you say, when you get 80, going 80, 80, 80, 80, 80. And the infamous train wreck. So you had this gang as attorneys for Hitler Reagan in Thurston Hall of Washington, D.C., taking me out as Reagan's prey so he could wave to me the night before he shot Brady and pulled on his Bly Sanders reality show, which then gave him license to work with this gang on the AIDS Mount Desert Island extermination chamber that Peter Gabriel called an experience park. Well, Jaime Carbonell was a natural language system analyst who believed in purposeful computer translation. He was all wired up to Putin and Brian Eno when they got this. Another game that Kirshner used to play was he'd say a line from Tolkien, and you were supposed to guess where it came from, exactly who said it. So they get this extrusion, they called it, from Jimmy Creary. Now let's talk about who the Pitt Psychology and Carnegie Mellon fascist team were from NASA, who extruded from Jimmy Creary, were actually vivisectioning with a nerve agent using torture and brutality and vivisection on a human held hostage by an Attica State Prison psychiatrist and his neurological investigator's son, who has been recently punished by Eastwood-Manson snuff films with Parkinson's syndrome. Well, my father was chair of education, philosophy of education, the author of Humanizing the School. In retirement, he was professor emeritus in Bethany, West Virginia. He signed diplomas, and for retirement, commitment to his ideals, he drove a school bus. How did the Pitt aristocracy, the administration, one of whom was caught with $6 million worth of museum books in his pocket, lining his pockets with the help of somebody who went on to ghostwrite for Donald Trump. Who was this administration, Mark Nuremberg, favoring? Was a gang that drove recklessly around a school bus at Kelly School so they could try to point the finger at me, who ended up homeless for 2 years. So Jaime Carbonell gets his extrusion, and they play pin the tail on the donkey. In other words, they knew that it was something I knew nothing about. They had Brucker. My mother used to say, why do you talk about like Brucker after you see him? He was turning into the neuroplasm. And they get tied up and porked with a carrot. This was Neva Confederacy. Neva is a giant pornographic corporation. Working with Jaime Carbonell was a Neva Confederate named Andrea Swimmer. Keep in mind that Bush was shot down and may have blamed my father for radio room distraction, and he ended up swimming in the sea. So you have swimmer. So the traitor Bush is implicated. And Jaime Carbonell knew, because Swimmer knew perfectly well, this was a soundtrack being impinged, Greg Carl's word, voiced over, to quote Meg Nolwenn, who was introduced to me by Michael Mullen, by Mellon before doing the voice for Mullen. They knew perfectly well that these hirelings had talked about this while rubbing my face in a horrifying Soldier of Fortune magazine image, while held in terrible trauma as a frightened, my fingernails bleeding. I reported to school these men were going to kill me, and then disappeared for a month into Eastwood-Manson snuff films. And they knew perfectly well who the criminals were who had impinged on the persona, is what they wrote. And a voiceover that I had nothing to do with. It was light years away. It was their joke. That's the whole point. It was their joke. You're dealing with the criminally insane. They say, no, the answer to this is to sacrifice queerball to block totality in the Gurdjieff school of thought. Yaha, yaha. Tony Levin is the fiddler on the roof of the burning crematorium of Sobibor is what's going on.